The current news cycle is a flood of forceful announcements. Executive assertions and high-profile declarations are capturing the majority of the public's attention. This diagram labels the public price, the narrative of control framing anxieties around tariffs, voter records, and the Fed. Assuming announcements dictate outcomes relies on expired data. Look right to the private price, where institutional costs determine a policy's actual path. We are radically shifting our focus. We are setting aside the political narrative and the stated intentions of the executive to look at the underlying structural conditions. Tracking the loudest signal is a rational instinct, but it obscures the quiet, inevitable mathematics of a system forced to pay its own bills. We are stepping away from political theory and entering the unhurried mathematics of structural correction. When the Supreme Court invalidated the administration's broad tariff authority, it converted a $175 billion revenue instrument into a massive liability. As this screen shows, the result is a finalized refund queue totaling $166 billion. The administrative reality of this correction lives here, at U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Personnel are now processing tens of thousands of individual refunds for importers. This table illustrates the divergence. The public claim was sovereign control over trade terms, but the ground-level reality is the management of a court-ordered refund queue. This $166 billion refund represents the law of consequence asserting itself and balancing the ledger. This collision happens because of how law functions. While the executive might treat law as a variable to be optimized or delayed, courts treat law as an unyielding boundary condition. When political velocity strikes that boundary, the energy dissipates. We see this with the Department of Justice's recent attempt to secure unusually broad access to voter records and ballot materials from several states. Those demands hit a judicial wall in Rhode Island, where a federal court rejected the request as lacking sufficient legal authority. In Michigan, state officials rejected the demand, characterizing the ballot request as having no legal basis. These instances highlight the structural friction at play. Narrative energy is flowing into legal channels that are already blocked. This legislative uncertainty carries a similar cost. After failing to pass a long-term renewal of Section 702 surveillance authority, Congress instead passed a precarious 10-day patch. This 10-day patch functions as a deferral of a legitimacy deficit. It creates a volatility tax that prevents markets from pricing long-term risk because the underlying legal instrument is unstable. And this concept extends to monetary governance. The administration is pushing to install Kevin Warsh as Federal Reserve Chair in an attempt to influence interest rate decisions. This has created a credibility bottleneck in the Senate Banking Committee. Markets are unable to reliably price the cost of money while the independence of the Federal Reserve is in question. Applying political force to a system that derives its value from independence contains the mechanism of its own defeat. The system has reached the liquidation phase of force. As this loop shows, forceful assertions are now being overtaken by the administrative costs of their own correction. The formal structure of authority and the kinetic reality of the system are merging as reality demands a structural correction. If you monitor these correction costs rather than public announcements, your understanding of the market will shift before the headline readers catch up. When the next executive announcement hits, substitute the public claim for the structural cost of its correction and rest your attention there. The noise of political assertion requires no reaction because the ledger of reality always balances itself.